morning, guys. Oh, we switched. Good morning and welcome to this what day is it? It's Wednesday's daily grind. Good morning, good morning.
I think we're all feeling it right now. So
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
one of those weeks.
well, the weather's not helping either. So, but it's supposed to get a little warmer today, a lot warmer tomorrow, but then it all comes back in next week. So we'll see what happens.
I like cold.
By the way, did you hear that a lot of schools have been closing with no ice, no snow, but because of the temperatures being so cold that it is, the schools don't want the kids to sit out there by the bus stops waiting for the buses at this cold of weather, so they're having to cancel schools.
Must be nice.
Would have no idea what that's all about because when I remember as a kid, especially growing up in Texas, we we would be up at about 10, 11 o'clock at night waiting to see that scroll of schools that are canceled. And we're like going, come
On the
on,
news.
Denton County. Yeah, like, come on, Denton County. Come on, Carrollton, Texas. Come on. We got this. But no, it never really worked out that way. So, I mean, because unfortunately, here in our Great Fairburg that we lived in, snow was a rarity, and I mean a rarity. And when it
Yeah,
happened, it shut the entire city down for at least 3 days.
I grew up in Huntington Beach, California, so yeah, school didn't get
You
closed.
never dealt
Even
with.
earthquakes were like, here, just put a book over your head, you'll be all right.
Right? Well, you got front and center today, so you get to steer the bus.
I don't know how to steal the book. I only have a Class C license. Okay.
Right. Well, yeah.
um. Well, we can start out with. So last night I sent you this picture because NFL and everyone and their mother had posted this, and I wanted to cry. Um, Jason Kelce, they said announcing his retirement to his um to the boys in the locker room after that loss to the Bucks. But then this morning or last night on his podcast, he kind of clarified and said that he did give a speech to his teammates, but the final decision and actual like declaration of retirement has not actually been made yet. So let's watch that video and then we're going to kind of discuss what we think are the reasons for why he's kind of holding off and that kind of thing.
Nick kind of gave me an opportunity to talk. I didn't announce what I was doing on purpose, despite, I guess, what's been leaked to the media. I just don't think you're in a position after a game like that to really make that decision. I just don't. There's too much emotion in the moment to really fully grasp that decision. I'm not trying to be dramatic and continue to draw this thing out. I'm really not. It's just something that I think, when it's time to officially announce what's happening in the future, it'll be done in a way that's definitive and pays respect to a lot of people and individuals that have meant a lot to me and has led to the career I've had. I don't think that it would be respectful or even accurate to be able to do that right after a game like that.
Yeah.
But I did address the team and pretty much said the same thing that I just said to you, which is, I got belief in every single one of you guys, cherish the moment you have in this league. A lot of guys like, if that is your last game, I feel sorry for you. I'm like, don't feel sorry for me, mother. I had a
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, so you see him get choked up there at the end, and I love how emotional Jason Kelce is. I just think he's such a cool, just down to earth dude. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason that he hasn't actually come out and announced it yet is he's waiting to see what the Eagles do as far as coaching staff, players, who they keep. I think he feels at least one more season in him. I think he kind of would like to go off on at least a little bit better note. Even if they don't win the Super Bowl, I think the way in which they played those last like 5-6 games was just so bad compared to like the amount of talent they had. It was just like, what are you guys doing? Um, and I think he would just rather go out at least on a good note instead of the note that they went out on. But I think he's waiting to see if it would be worth it or not. Where see where some of the players go, how the coaching staff turns out. I think he's just kind of waiting to see what the Eagles organization does and if it's worth putting in another season or not, or if he should just go out now.
Imagine the stress level you have as an NFL player right now. Nothing is certain. Your coach's job's not certain. Your spot's not certain. They can go into the NFL draft and draft a center, like one of the top center in the league, because most centers don't go until about the later in the round. There could be a lot of reasons why he might be thinking about retirement other than what you're talking about. But let's focus on what you're talking about, though. Let's say it's the coaches. Let's say that there's a disconnect, right? Well, then who are they going to go get? Are they going to bring in a coach that's going to jazz him up a little bit and go, yeah, I'll play for this guy? Or do they bring in a coach like he don't care about the offense. He don't care about what I do as a position player. So why do I want to stick around and deal with the offseason and deal with the mini camps and all the training camps and then having to go through the preseason and then the long ass season again and try to do as well as we did this past year, but hopefully we knock all the rust off that we had towards the end, and then get into the playoffs and hopefully we get into. There's so much that goes into all that, and to have your season end the way it did, to sit there and go, I'm back to ground zero. Hey, trust me, I pull for a team that's just as bad, if not worse. So, does he want to go through all that again? He's got other interests. He's got a podcast. He's definitely made to be still doing NFL things at a lot less damage to his head. Because when you're a center in the NFL, that's the first thing they target is your head. And I'm sorry, but, the way concussions are nowadays, and you see players who are in their 60s and 70s who got plenty of money but couldn't tell you how to tie their shoe. That's an issue that these guys have nowadays. I cry when I see Tony Dorsett because that guy ran as hard as anybody else, and he can barely function. I see. Clearly, it's a very sad state of affairs when you see the NFL, who said they care about their players, but then clearly, we have this concussion protocol, we have all this stuff, but just players still getting hurt because there's no helmet big enough to fit their head to keep from getting concussions. If they did have that, it would look like an NFL Madden football game where the helmets are like yay big because with a big logo on there. I'm sure Jerry would love that. I ain't gonna lie. There go the Cowboys. Look at that big old star. But no, look, if Jason Kelce wants to hang it up, I get it. He's got other options out there that are not football. There could be NFL related, but not in the idea of actually going through the grind. We call our show the Daily Grind because we have to get up and do this show Monday through Friday, and we talk about the news. It's a lighthearted, the Daily Grind. Here we go. But imagine what his daily grind is. Oh my God!
He's got 3 kids.
Yeah, he's got a litter of kids already, and he's got to deal with them. There's also a part where he wants to be able to be upright, to be able to to watch his kids play sports or to be there for his kids. Some players can't. The player who played for the Bills last year, they got carted off the field because he died on the field and then got brought back to life. You think he's not happy that he has a second chance?
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin. So it's not just professional sports because clearly any walk of life anybody can just kill over, but it's a thought that when it can happen to you, it can happen to you. And I'm sorry, but injuries. Let's face it. You're a center. You got players coming at you from all different directions, from your knees to your head, to your back, everywhere. So if he sat there and said, you know what, I'm good, bravo. Bravo. You put in a hell of a career. You're going to go to the Hall of Fame. You definitely are going to have a spot in the NFL waiting for you, whether it's at NFL.com or if it's at CBS, NBC, Peacock,
Commentating
whatever's
or
out there.
something.
Commentating, or if the Eagles say, hey, we're going to make you a head coach or we're going to make you a positional coach. Okay. I mean, you're still technically involved in the sport and you're still dealing the daily grind as a coach, which is a whole different beast because look at Jimmy Johnson when he coached the Cowboys. That was 24/7 for him. He didn't have a life outside of that. For 5 years, he did that, got 2 Super Bowl rings out of it. And then he says, okay, I'm not having any fun anymore. And left. Now, Jerry might have kicked his ass out the door on the way, but either way, it was a mutual, parting of the ways. So Jason Kelce wants to hang it up. Maybe, and believe me, I agree with you 100%. There's something wrong in Philly right now. There is something wrong in Philly in that locker room because for them to draw after the Niners lost, and then the Cowboys beat them, and then you had the Cardinals and the Giants get at them. Clearly, something's wrong. And then to go into the playoffs where you didn't even stand a chance,
And we beat the Bucks earlier in the season by 20 points.
Yeah, so you guys got retribution payback on the other end of that, but here's saying you got it when it mattered, and does a player who has put in a full career pretty much
13 years with the Eagles?
Yeah, you're 13 years in any line of business. That is congratulations right there, because
he got drafted the same year I graduated high school. He got drafted in 2011.
Boy, don't I feel old. I mean, but shoot. I mean, it's just it's. I get it. If he wants to hang it up, I get it. If he wants to go another year, you know what? That's his prerogative. He can do whatever the hell he wants to do when it comes to that. And will he stay with the Eagles? Will he look elsewhere? I mean, I don't know if he's a free agent or not. I have no idea what his contract situation is.
I think he's a diehard Eagle. I really do. I think he wants to retire an Eagle. Like I said, I really just think he's kind of waiting a little bit to see what the organization does. Like if they're going to fix whatever. I hope someone comes out and talks about what the hell is going on, because I want to know, I want to know the tea. I want to know what happened between the players and the coaches and the coordinators and where that disconnect started. Because you could even look those last couple games at their faces, and the players just looked frustrated. They looked annoyed. And I don't know if it was the play calling in their ear and they're wondering, why are you having me run this play? Like, this is stupid, but okay.
Well, like, I look at it this way. I look at it this way. I look at the wins they had, the earlier wins they had in the year. And, they weren't blowouts. They weren't.
No, every single one was super close. The bad play calling started at the beginning of the year, and it just got worse.
So I mean, I wonder if they just ran out in their tank and says we don't have any more because we've given you all that we can to get to 10-1, but now we're on empty right now. That happens a lot of times. You play as much as you possibly can play, but the season still has a quarter left to go, and you're like, do you think? Look, you think when the NFL expanded their games from 16 to 17 games, and from a 17 to 18 weeks situation, I think the players were happy about that? No, they're not happy about that because that's more chance of getting injured. Also, that's a lot more wear and tear on their body. And they always say it's a war of attrition. That's true, it really is. But now that you've upped it one more game, and you can't sit there and go, well, those are the games that some teams just take off because that's kind of your last game of the year type thing. Well, you still had that with 16 games, but at least it wasn't as bad. Now you have, you're trying to make, look, they found a way to make the playoffs really interesting with the super wild card thing. You have 6 games going on. Kudos to them for doing all that. However, before all that, 2 teams had a bye in each conference, and you would play the playoffs down to where you could, get that down to where you had to get it to. Nowadays, you expanded the playoff to one more team being added, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take on now. And now that teams are getting into the playoffs at 9-8 or 8-9 or whatever because their divisions are bad, but they're
The
getting beat up
AFC,
all to
man.
hell.
The AFC lately has been a mess.
Dude, the NFC South was a mess. With the Bucks and the Saints and the Panthers and the Falcons, that was a mess. I mean, it was like the battle of mediocrity, trying to see who's going to win that one, and the team that won their first round playoff game. So it's almost an S storm, as it would be for these players to go through that. So for Jason Kelce to sit there and go, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm done. Or I'm not sure yet because I want to see what we're going to do. He's earned the right to say that. 13 years in the league, All-Pro, Hall of Famer. He's earned the right to make that.
Yeah. Put up that list of his accomplishments.
I'm trying to find it again. If you can read it, here we go.
So 6-time.
Yeah, he's a
first team All-Pro.
First team All-Pros, 7-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. Started 193 out of 193 career games. That's almost the equivalent to what Cal Ripken Jr. did in baseball. 6-time captain, raised millions of dollars for Philly charities. That's a lot. And you know what? He in the folklore out there in Philly, that's up there with some of the best.
Oh yeah.
And he stayed with one team. I mean, I love that when a player can stay with one team and not just sit there, because I hate it so much. Hate it.
Watching people get bounced around.
Well, just watch Emmitt Smith go to the Cardinals for 2 years. I hated that. And all he did, he went there to pad his stats. But even so, he couldn't pad him that much because he's only getting 600 yards a year. Back when he was getting over 1,000 for the Cowboys. So it was like, I get it. You still got some more fight in you, but dude, is it really worth it? And sometimes it's not. I mean, sometimes you go there and you take one too many hits.
Well, look at Aaron Rodgers going from Green Bay to the Jets and playing for 2 minutes.
Not his fault, but I mean, because once again, that can happen to any of us. I mean, hell, I mean, I can walk in my place of employment and I pulled my meniscus and my MCL. I mean, it happens just from walking. So, but the fact that it happened on a national stage with a team that everybody predicted was going to do something this year, and all of a sudden we see their season go from up here to all of the span of 3 plays. That's tough. I mean, I said, hey, the guy took 4 snaps. 3 snaps behind the center and 1 snap when his leg gave out on him. So, but he's going to come back next year and do it all over again. So we'll see what happens.
Hopefully they'll at least get their money's worth out of him.
It's not my problem,
But
not my monkeys, not my circus.
The only thing I was getting annoyed about last night is, of course, and it was mainly Niner fans. This is why I'm telling you, like, people like. Being from California, we can't stand the 49ers because it was mainly Niner fans that were commenting on the Jason Kelce thing, like, who cares? He's overrated. Oh, we took him out for the seat or took him out for life or all this stuff. And I'm like, if you cannot look outside of your team and see what an amazing, probably thus far, one of the greatest centers of all time, like, Jason Kelce's a beast, and he's a cool, like, down-to-earth dude. And he's played 13 seasons in a very tough position, never missed a game, like, started 193 out of 193 games. That's a lot of games. And he's 36 years old. That's, quote, quote, old for football.
Yeah, and going back to what we talked about earlier, I mean, you're seeing a lot of early retirements from players. Players aren't playing to their 40s, and because they want to be able to. A lot of them have kids. Jason's got 3 of them, right? So he wants to see his
Young
kids,
kids.
grow up and do so. And, to do that from a wheelchair is probably not the best idea, I mean, to do it to where you are somewhat of an invalid now because you don't have the wherewithal to do what you could do because you go into a sport, and like to go back to my world, professional wrestling, we know our lifespans are not going to be, are not going to be, that big. I mean, we know that going in because we're putting our bodies through hell. And professional football players, whether it's pro wrestling or football, you're still putting your body through hell. You're stretching it to every limit you can. And then the idea that you're getting contact on top of your head on that and your brain, hey, I've had you see the scar there if you want to look. I've had a brain injury from a car accident. I still struggle from it, and that's why I do this show because that's why I do all these podcasts because I want to get better at speaking. And a lot of it is because I know how I sound and I hate how I sound. And a lot of these players, they don't have the wherewithal to sit there and go, what do I do now? I can't play football. Jason Kelce's got a life ahead of him after football, so I think he's fine. Plus the fact that a lot of players, and I really wish Troy Aikman would do this. Because you see John Elway going to this. You see some other players going to this. I want to see them become general managers of football teams. Guys who can sit there and, they know how to win because they've won and look at them, take a hard stance at the team they're currently the general manager of and make those decisions for their owner because some owners who are the biggest fans can't make those decisions. Case in point, the Dallas Cowboys. So, that's just kind of what I like to see is, more player involvement with front office decisions to help move the game along. But when you're stuck with billionaires on teams and they're bright eyed and they're look, Jerry Jones in the Hall of Fame because he brought so much money to the NFL. That's why he's there. Had nothing to do with winning 3 Super Bowls. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I just think it's a historic career. And then a little cute fact that I learned last night too when they were posting all that stuff. I sent you that video where you learn that Travis Kelce, who is definitely the more loud brother, the more likes the spotlight, dating T Swift and all that kind of stuff. Jason is definitely the more like in the woods brother. Like him and his wife Kylie don't really like to be out in the spotlight and stuff. But Travis, you can tell it's actually seems like a cool dude deep down too, because he actually said in an interview the reason that he picked the number 87 is because it's Jason's birth year, 1987. Mm-hmm. So it's his number is dedicated to his older brother. So which I thought was cute. Having 2 sons that make it to the NFL is like amazing. I love Donna Kelce.
Well, imagine having 2 of them playing the Super Bowl together with each other.
That was probably such a cool moment for her. Like, you're winning no matter what.
That's where he's going to go, which one's the better son? I don't know. Yeah, it could be fun. Once again, look, whatever he decides to do, I'm sure it'll be what's in the best interest of him. Because one thing we always kind of take out of the equation is, fans get all wrapped up into, we got to do what's best for the team, man. The team is the most important thing. No, that player's safety is the most important thing.
His family.
Pretty much
his
second.
Kids are like
family.
5, 3, and 1. Like his kids are still really, really small.
He probably wants to have more for all I know. I don't know the guy personally, but I mean, maybe the wife wants more. I mean, he's got to be able to take care of that as well. Let's face it. Being the wife of an NFL football player, I mean, they have to sacrifice a lot to watch their husband go out there and get the hell beat out of them every single game, and to come back
gone all the time.
aches. Yeah, and the aches and the pains and everything else what they can and can't do at the house. That's a lot of pressure put on the wives of the NFL players, or for that matter, any particular sports, any athletes' wives or husbands for that matter, because because women have their own sports as well. But I mean, like if you're a professional baseball player, you're gone a lot. You know, I mean, you were 162 games. You were 80. You were 81 games outside of your area, and some families don't even live in the city that they play in. So
Yeah.
they see them. They see them in the off season, or if they're nearby, they'll go see them. You know, I mean, that's the weirdness of pro sports. I mean, we always kind of think, well, you know, hey, so and so plays for this team. He's going to be here in this town. We're going to see him around a lot and stuff. Maybe not. Maybe he has a life outside of this city that doesn't involve. He just plays for him.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Either
all
way, no
hard.
matter
Hard
what
luck.
the decision ends up being, congratulations to Jason Kelce, either at the end or thus far having one hell of a career as a very badass center.
I just hope I'm granted the same amount of leeway that I'm granting you when one of my favorite Cowboy players retire. Because I can just see you sitting there going, "Yeah, he needs to leave anyway. Push the Cowboys. He sucks." It's
No,
okay.
I mean, no matter what I think of the team, but it's certain players I think earn certain respect. Like as much as I couldn't stand Tom Brady, as much as like I got annoyed watching him win all the time and the controversies behind the Pats, you could still say like when he went to Tampa Bay, won another damn ring, and I'm like, Tom Brady's just good. He's really freaking good. It's annoying, but he's really good. Like,
You know what? Nobody was more annoyed than his ex-wife saying, "Really? We're going to Florida now? I put up with New England for how long? Now we're going to Florida? Get your ass back to California." So, by the way, I read somewhere that he was actually at the game, the NFL championship game, where the Cowboys played the Niners when the catch occurred back in '81. So now I hate him for that. now, now I hate him for being, you
but
know,
you know what I
I
mean? Like,
hate
no
the.
matter how much you can't stand the person or the team or whatever, when you have a career like he had, you have to give the respect that he's
Oh
earned
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, it's look, I was never a Brett Favre fan at all because the NFL threw him at us so quickly, so fast. Because I remember watching Monday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys versus the Green Bay Packers, and the Cowboys are beating him by just kicking field goals. That's all we can score. Like the final score was 21-16. We kicked 7 field goals that night, and Dan Deerdorf was sitting in the broadcast booth, and all game long, look at Brett Favre go. Look at Brett Favre was the best player. He was worse than John Madden. Look at Brett Favre go. He's the best player out there. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's making things happen. We get to the end of the game, and Deerdorf pipes in and goes, "Well, it's a rough game for Brett Favre today, and well, he didn't have his best game today." And Frank Gifford looked over him and go, "I bet that hurt to say, didn't it?" And I laughed so hard when I heard that, and I'm like, finally somebody called him out on his nonsense. But the NFL was really quick to throw players like him, and that's why I didn't like him, because I didn't like things being thrown at me saying, "You're so great, you're so great, you're so great." I'm like, well, he's only won
That's
once
kind of
Super
how I
Bowl.
feel about Patrick Mahomes right now. Like as much as, the Chiefs are great. I love Andy Reid, so Andy Reid has my heart as a longtime Eagles coach. Um But the way they treat Mahomes sometimes, like even you'll see like the refs not really wanting to throw flags with him, but if anyone even touches him, they're like, whoosh. And I'm like,
I'm still waiting for the Patrick Mahomes Muppet, because he got the voice for it. I want to see the Muppet version of him. I ain't gonna
I'm
lie.
just
I
like,
mean,
they really like to focus on certain players sometimes, and especially certain teams. Like the Eagles are known for being kind of butt heads, and our fans are very obnoxious, and we do it with pride. And we get a lot of hate from commentators, from everything. Like even the year we won the Super Bowl, if you think back to that first playoff game against the Falcons, we were the number one seed. We were, I think, 14-3 going into there, number one seed. But we had lost Wentz, but Foles had won a couple games before this, and the Falcons were the sixth seed, and they were favored over us in that game. Then we beat them. Then we went on to the Vikings. They favored the Vikings. We kicked the shit out of the Vikings during that game. And it was like, that's where we started wearing the stupid dog mask and stuff, was because no one ever believed in, no one ever believes in Philly. We just have one of those reputations. People love to hate us, kind of like the Cowboys.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, right? And I was like, imagine if you're a Jets fan, right? You ain't won since the 60s. Imagine if you're a Vikings fan. You've been to 4 Super Bowls in the 70s and couldn't win. And you haven't been back since. And you had an opportunity with the Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper year, and they blew it in the championship game to the Falcons. So, you've never even sniffed the Super Bowl. And
Well,
since the 70s.
especially that year that we beat them in the NFC Championship game, the Super Bowl was in Minnesota. So they would have been one of the
I
first
know.
teams to play like a Super Bowl at their home stadium. But
Yeah, now that actually happened though, didn't the Rams play in the Super Bowl in LA when they first moved to LA? Or moved back to LA, or was that the Bucks? Was it the Bucks that had a Super Bowl in Tampa Stadium? I'm trying to remember because I know it happened one time finally.
it might be LA, because that Super Bowl was on my birthday, and I remember that you had all the rappers and stuff there.
Yeah,
That was actually a
okay.
really good
Yeah.
halftime show. I like that show because it made me think of my,
I,
the growing up, the stuff my aunt used to
Yeah.
listen to.
I don't remember that game at all, but I mean,
I didn't really
it's
watch the
amazing
game. I
because
just watched the halftime show, and the game was on my birthday that year.
there was one Super Bowl that took place. This tells you how far back this was. 1983 season, in January 94 of 84. Sorry, it was the Raiders and the Redskins, and the Redskins were coming off a 14-2 year. Joe Theismann had an all pro type of year. John Riggins did this thing for the Redskins, and the Raiders were coming on strong. They came in, but they were kind of like a lower seeded playoff team, and they got to the Super Bowl and they beat the living shit out of the Redskins. Final score was 38-9. At that point, that was the highest scoring Super Bowl win any team ever had, 38 points. Imagine how much that's changed since then. And the most historic moment I remember seeing was Marcus Allen taking the ball, going to his right, reversing field, going to his left, going all the way down the field for 74 yards to score that touchdown. And you saw every player on the Redskins have their head down, go. I mean, because they have done so much to get where they were at, and they lost 2 games. They lost to the Cowboys opening weekend, and they lost to, I believe, the Packers that year. And the Packers were nothing at that point. I mean, the Redskins just went in there and didn't give a shit. And but to have it, I mean, that was a year to repeat as champion too, and they didn't do it. So, but for some reason, I remember that game more than I remember any of the Cowboy Super Bowls, which is amazing. I know, probably because I had the advent of the VHS tape, and I'd watch that over and over and over because I saw the Redskins get beat, and I was real happy with that. So, well, we talked a lot of football there for 30 minutes, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, well, you the bus driver. You steer the boat. You steer the ship.
I don't like steering. Well, I was looking at the stuff between China and Taiwan, because they just had an election. Taiwan had an election, and they just voted in. He was the former vice president, Lai Ching-te, as their next president, despite warnings from Beijing not to support him. The election was called by China, described it as a choice between war and peace. So China's mad. And right now they're looking at how weak Biden is being and how little he's doing. I mean, he finally blew up the Houthi pirates. Only took him like 3 weeks. But and then people in the Democrat Party still got mad at him. They said he didn't have the right to blow up the ships because it's an act of war. And this is ships in the Red Sea that were getting blown up by these stupid pirates and was affecting like it was major trade routes in the Red Sea, similar, and it was gonna create bottlenecks similar to what you saw during COVID. So if he didn't do that, then we were gonna have, stuff wasn't gonna be coming into the country properly again. And people were still mad. But what this is looking like now, with how weak Biden has been to really do much with these foreign countries, if and the one of the good things you can say about Trump was that he was really what would the right word be? We were talking about this the other day, where he was the guy, you weren't sure if he would push the big red button, so you just kind of
You didn't
didn't
trust him
mess with him.
that he had the authority to do that crap. Yeah.
So you didn't, as a foreign leader, you just wouldn't go there because you didn't know if you were going to get your shit stomped. They don't feel that with Biden. They feel like they can do what they want, and he's just kind of going to wag his finger and tell them, "Don't do that next time," And so right now, stuff is kind of ramping up over there, and people, the Defense Department, kind of worried that if Biden continues to be losing in the polls to Trump towards like the middle of the year, if he's still losing when the election's getting closer, that China might kind of ramp up aggressions towards Taiwan to get it done and over with before Trump gets in. Because they see Trump as more of a threat than Biden. So,
I have a
and
question
that,
for you on this.
what's the question?
Let's say we get down to the election, right? It's gonna be Trump and
Mhm.
Biden again. Let's say a miracle happens in this case, and Biden beats him again.
That wouldn't be a
I
miracle.
say that'd be a miracle because I don't see Biden winning this next time around, because like you said, he's proven to be somewhat incompetent, and Trump has pretty much been the face of the other side for a long time, and people just are the pro-Trumpers almost outweighing anybody else out there right now because they got the louder voice. But let's say Biden wins it again. Do we go through another 3 or 4 years of hearing Trump say that the election was stolen from him? And we go through another
Absolutely.
3 or 4 years. I mean, because like he didn't lose. Losing was done happen. I was cheated. I was this. I was that.
Yeah.
Do we get that all that again? Because
Oh,
at what
100%.
point?
Especially with
point
the
do we
stuff
not
that
get
they're
fed up
doing,
with
trying
that?
to take him off the ballot. He's absolutely
Well,
would cry wolf.
but at what point do we sit there and go, enough is enough? No one stole this from you twice. Twice in 8 years. This is what it is. I mean, what was the one thing I read yesterday? Now, this could be bullshit for all I know, but I mean, I read that he told people in Iowa, "Hey, go vote no matter what. Even if you're gonna die, you'll be glad that you voted for me." I'm like, okay, well, I don't think I can see him saying that, but at the same time, I can see people making that up that he would say that. So it's
I can
like,
see him saying it
I'm
as a
not.
joke, but then the media's going to report it like he was being serious. Because,
Right.
Trump is what people have to remember with him is that he's a New Yorker, so he talks like a New Yorker. And if you don't know a New Yorker, then you're not going to understand. But
Right.
anyone that knows someone from New York knows that they have this kind of way of talking, and they're very blunt, and their jokes don't always sound like jokes. Like, you have to know the person that they are to understand that they're messing with you, and an outsider would take them completely serious. And I think that's 90% of Trump. Like, he'll say stuff like, "Oh, I'm going to be a dictator on the first day," and he doesn't actually mean he's going to be a dictator. All he means is that he's going to sign a couple executive orders. But he says that, and the media just goes, because people take him far more serious than they need to. But I mean, it's obvious it's the president, so you should take the president seriously. But in Trump, it's like he has that New York style of talking, and so you kind of got to take everything he says with a grain of salt and not take everything for its word. But to answer your question, yes, it would be another 4 years of they were taking my name off the ballot. They were trying to charge me with everything they could possibly. And this one would be a little more true than 2020. 2020, the most like they did hide the Hunter Biden stuff. They did there is proof now that they did go to the FBI went to like social media companies and had them blocking stories and stuff that might be negative towards Biden, because I think they learned from the Hillary email stuff that people take that shit seriously. But I don't think it was enough to have got him a win. I do think it affected it, but not enough to where it would have changed the results. This time, they are really actually trying to like screw him in multiple ways. Like I'm not a Trump fan. We've talked about this, but the the different cases he has, 3 out of the 4 are complete BS. Like I said before, the other one he did, it looks like he did, but so has Biden, so has Hillary, so has Obama. So it's like if you're going to charge him, then you might as well start charging half of the people that have been in the White House in the last 50 years. Like you're going to start a precedent now where it's just going to steamroll downhill. They're trying to take him off the ballots and stuff. So that is actually, like, if you're talking election interference, then that is absolutely way more true this time around than the last time. But yeah, it would be the same thing. But what people have to understand, the reason I brought up the Taiwan thing is that Taiwan is extremely important to America. And I don't think people understand, like, when people talk about, well, it's foreign stuff and USA shouldn't get involved. 95%, I think it was 95% of our microchips, especially the ones that are used in our advanced military equipment, come from Taiwan. Now, the reason that China is not a military superpower yet, like they have the numbers, but they don't have the technology. If they were to invade Taiwan and get their hands on those microchips, we would be in trouble, because they would now have American grade military equipment, and a lot of people, because you're forced into the CCP military, kind of like the draft days here. They got a big military, and if they get our kind of equipment with our technology, it would be not good. So this kind of stuff is important. It's like, yeah, you don't want America to be the world's police, but sometimes we need to be, because these little things that people think aren't that important can spiral. Like the Iran Israel thing, Iran has nuclear bombs. If we start, obviously, the Ukraine thing, it's like at some point they would need to come to a resolution there, because Ukraine's not going to win. It's not going to happen. They just got to make some kind of deal with Russia. But should we have helped them in the beginning? Absolutely, because you can't let Russia think that they can do whatever they want, because this kind of stuff spirals. And that's what people have to understand, is that, like, yeah, it's annoying when America kind of acts as like the world's police, but these little situations can become big situations. Imagine China getting a hold of American grade military equipment. That's not going to go good. And then that prevents us from now getting future microchips, getting stuff for our computers, getting all that kind of stuff. We wouldn't have those chips anymore. Imagine this world, or this country without microchips.
No, I know it would shut the country down completely, because just cell phones alone, I mean, that's a big part of our daily life as it is. I mean, we need all that kind of stuff.
So it's like little stuff like that is important, and people need to understand that it is important. And my biggest problem with Biden, yet, like, I get annoyed that he ran as a kind of middle ground guy, and he's gone completely with his left wing part of the party, like his most extreme part of the party. He's totally been impartial with. That's annoying, but it's been the weakness, the stumbling over his words in every speech, not knowing how to get off a stage, like not actually having any type of, I'm just gonna be real, any type of balls with these other countries, not doing what needs to be done. And now people think we're weak, and they think we're not going to do anything. And weakness breeds aggression. The one thing you can say about being, being the superpowers that people don't mess with you. And you have to have that, as PC as we want the world to be, it's just never going to be that. There's always going to be some leader, dictator, someone somewhere that wants to take over more land and expand their country and have more power. There's always going to be someone. And so if there isn't a big superpower like us to stop them, then all hell breaks loose. And, people have to understand how something as little as, okay, why do we care about China and Taiwan? Taiwan's this little country, but that little country does a lot of things for our country, and it would be very, very, very bad if China went in there.
Right. Well, speaking of the middle ground, you got a show that popped up for episode 2.
Yes,
on Tuesday.
episode 2.
There we go. I recommend everybody go check it out. Go check it out. It was on it's on Spotify. It's also on YouTube as well. Look up the middle ground with President Christine. If you type in the middle ground, you'll get a lot of middle ground. So clearly, you want to go to our middle ground, which is with the whole thing. So, and remember,
what's your opinion, Trey?
So,
what do you think about weakness in China and that kind of
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% about that we need to have a president who looks like he's going to get shit done. Okay, looks like he's the kind of guy that will not take no for an answer when it comes to the safety of the world. My issue with, and once again, I don't like when countries go to war. I don't like when. But I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, look, we don't need to be going to war. If we have to go to war, we have to go to war. That's bottom line. But, when you come across, okay, well, things should be done a certain way, and then you take that and you take what a dictator is, you want to try to separate the two as best you can, right? Because we know what the dictator part of Hitler was all about. We're trying to figure out how to guard the world, not so much our country, but the world in a safer place. Keep it away from the idiots out there that can definitely do harm to it. And like you said, that's hard to police. That is hard to police, especially nowadays with technology being what it is, with weapons being what they are, and the fact that anybody can do anything to disrupt the country. Look at 9/11. It took a bunch of guys getting together, timing when they're going to do this thing, and boom, it happened, and it shut our country down for a good couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we're still picking up the pieces from that. It's something we never quite got over because every September 11th, it gets less and less every year now, but every September 11th, you're always reminded. Never forget. Here's what happened. No one ever does that for Pearl Harbor. You notice that? On December 7th, you never hear anybody say, "Remember when?" Well, we don't remember when because none of us were born then. So, but a lot of us were here for 9/11. So, because that's the closest thing that a lot of us in this country have to, knowing what being attacked is like. And the bad thing is that could happen. That could happen on any day. We pick out 9/11 because that was the day it took place, but it could have happened any day. It's funny how it took place on 9/11 where we had the call 911 for emergency situations.
Well, they did that on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, on I love it how like when you have like certain days that match up where you go, hey, on February 2nd, 2022, on 2222, watch out. Well, no one really watched out for anything, but nothing happened either. So it's like, this world is so much more scarier than it was when I was a kid because, back then you didn't hear all the nonsense that was going on with Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. at the time. Whereas now it's all in our face because the media is the one that stirs up a lot of it too. Like I said, you got two branches of media. One's going to stir for one side, one's going to stir for the other side. And which side you're going to sit there and listen to and go, okay, I believe them. I mean, I don't believe any of it because I think media is about trying to make money because those television sponsorships that they get, those are big time dollars. Not necessarily what the NFL gets on a Super Bowl weekend, but definitely there are big time dollars to make that network work. And, you know, all the armchair quarterbacking that we do, that other people do, who get paid a lot more than we do to talk about it, and who think that their opinion matters more than anybody else's. You know, look, when Donald Trump was elected president 4 years ago, or how long it was now, back in 2016, I remember being at work, seeing the election take place, seeing, oh my God, Hillary lost. I cannot believe it, because I thought she was going to be the surefire winner, because people knew about Hillary, but the problem is they knew too much about Hillary. So I looked at Trump. I said, let's give him a fair shake. Let's give him a fair shake. And you know what? Not everybody did that. But then I started listening to what he would say. All the grandstanding, all the the big stuff, I mean, like, we have the best stuff. We have the best this. We have the best that. Like, he would not really answer a question, as pretty much just generalization, tell you, listen, this sickness going around, this COVID-19, whatever it's called, listen, it's nothing, okay? It's just a cold. We have the best medicine for it. It was like, you're not telling us anything we don't know, okay? You're not telling us anything that's going to help us out. And, he became very parodiable. People would sit there and parody the hell out of him, and just like, hey, look, this is our leader. This is what other countries are looking at. Now, behind the scenes, he might have been a real ruthless piece of shit for all I know. And you know what? Maybe he scared the shit out of a lot of countries. Maybe he did. Because, like you said, do you really want to piss this guy off because he's got access to the button? There's a lot of that. Biden doesn't have that. No, he doesn't. Biden comes from a Kyler Jenner nation, which, quite frankly, that Kyler Jenner nation took his wife. Think of it that way. Let's be harsh. His wife
and
died.
His
son too. Yeah. So he's had a lot of trauma. To get where he's at is incredible, as being the president of the United States at his age. However, it's kind of like, a consolation prize for him, for all of his hard work of service and everything else you want to call it. Whether it was good or bad, he got it as a consolation prize. But you got to do something with the job. I'll give Trump credit. He did a lot with the job. Not everything I think worked, but a lot of things that did work. And I can't tell you what worked and what didn't work, because we only have 7 minutes of the show left, and all that kind of time. But look, I can look at Bill Clinton now. I was not a Clinton fan when he was in office. I can look at him now and go, he's the kind of guy I would love to sit and have a beer with and ask him, what the hell is that job all about, and get his perspective. I love to sit with George W. Bush and have the same conversation with him, because that's a job that not any of us would want to have. I talked about this yesterday. Not any of us want to put our life out there like that. So for Biden and for Trump and for everybody else who's had that job, I don't sit there and want to talk badly about those guys because of where I think they are on a mental state or whatever else, because they are beaten up every day by half of this country. So imagine that was you or me. We might just shake it off and go, it's no big deal. But these guys, they know they have all of our lives in their hands. And they have to factor that in one way or the other. Otherwise, you bring the entire country down, and that weighs on you. And then, regardless if you're viewed as the worst president in the world or the best president in the world, the fact is, how you go down in history is pretty much how you'll be labeled. Richard Nixon was a great president until Watergate.
Yeah.
LBJ did a lot of great things, but he has the Vietnam War as a backdrop of that. Kennedy was, look, JFK was the most uplifting look of what a president could be. But you get right down to it, how different is he from Biden? He didn't want to invade Cuba. He didn't want to do this. He wanted to, he kind of just, he wanted to stay away from war, which I 100% agree. But, he didn't want to go into Vietnam, but he got forced into by the people he was in office with. Then once he got eliminated, we went to Vietnam. So imagine having to have that job, having all these forces around you. By the way, you're a figurehead if you're the president. You're not really the leader. You're a figurehead. Groups and your party and different organizations are all running this country. And that's where I think the biggest misconception that any of us have sitting here in our own home talking about the next president of the United States is follow the money. Follow the money. See where this is going to go. And who's going to be the better spokesman for that kind of money? Is it going to be Trump? It's going to be Biden? Won't be Biden. We know that. Would it be Sarah Palin from Alaska? Would it be, George W. Bush back in the day? I know, right? It's just so sad. I mean, the best thing about her was that she made Tina Fey's career. Thank you for that. But, and I love Tina Fey, but I mean that was a perfect character for her. And kudos to Sarah Palin. She ran with it. She had a lot of fun with it because she knew she had no other choice. Either I can embrace this or I can attack it. Trump would attack it. Trump would attack the shit out of it because I should not be parodied. I should be taken seriously. Well, you're also Donald fucking Trump. Okay?
Yeah.
You're the guy.
He's been a character his whole life.
You were the guy who sued the NFL for 13 cents. That's what you got. When you had the USFL versus NFL lawsuit, you won 13 cents as a lawsuit just because the NFL had monopoly. So, good luck with that. So,
we shall see.
A lot to talk about. We shall see. But you know what? You can see more of us as you follow us on Facebook at The Daily Grind. I didn't do this yesterday. I do apologize, folks. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Best way to find us, type in The Daily Grind and my name, Trey. You'll see our picture. Follow it. Watch the show. We got 8 of them up there now. And go subscribe to us. We got 7 subscribers. Would love to have 93 more of y'all. So if y'all can jump on board with us, we would appreciate that.
And share. When you go to 1,000, you start being able to monetize stuff.
That's right. Follow us on Instagram at _daily_grind_. That's a mouthful to say, but you know what? We'll make fun of that as best way we can because once again, there's too many daily grinds out there that aren't necessarily us. So do bear that in mind as well.
They made us work for it.
Also, right? Also, like I said earlier, check out The Middle Ground with Presley Christine. Once again, drops every Tuesday on YouTube and on Spotify. Also, check out Fit Trends with Presley Christine and Karen Ashley. Did y'all get a chance to record an episode yesterday?
We're doing it today, finally.
Okay. Very cool. And of course,
that'll be up Monday.
Okay, Monday. Check out the Tailgate Talk on this Thursday, our final episode for the year because Cowboy season's over. And that'll be a cold day in hell for Jason to sit outside of his house and record that show with us because he doesn't record that inside of his house because his wife's sleeping. And, of course, check out Offshoots TV this Thursday, 9 o'clock Central Time. Myself and my crew, we get together, we talk wrestling, we have fun. We had a segment on we put on our Offshoots network. It hit over 1.6 thousand views, so we're definitely growing on that one. We got 88 subscribers. We started with 0. We're at 88 now, so it's a slow process, but we're getting there. And so check all that out. And again, to my the host of this show, because she's now the top dog up here, as I moved her to the front and center. Yeah, she loves it and she knows it. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you all next tomorrow as Thursday. And remember, we got Friday fun coming up here on Friday. So more pictures to share and more fun to have. So bye-bye.